Hello, everybody. Ella J here on behalf of WrestleZone, and today I am joined by the Super Saber, Saraya Saber. How are you doing today?
I I'm tired.
You know what? I feel that. I feel that.
Yeah, the full day of work plus wrestled 3 times this weekend, multiple times getting dropped on my neck. So it's fine.
You're living the dream, that I
Right.
mean, nothing comes easy, especially in professional wrestling. But I still must say 2023, we're in 2024 now, but I wanted to look at 2023 for a bit because that was a big year for you. It was your first full year of
Hmm.
wrestling after making your official debut in 2022. And I think I mean, you're pretty much already considered to be a top prospect to watch, I think. So can you kind of talk through some of the progress and strides you've made in the last year, last 17 months? I think I'm doing my math correctly that have
Um,
landed you to this point.
yeah, I think, 17 months, 16, 17 months, something like that.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know about the top prospect thing.
I
That's
I've been seeing your name a lot, and especially talking about like rookie years, especially you were floating in the conversation there, so you've made an impression already.
I was trying. God, in regards to progress, I think it's just been trying to do everything that I can and just kind of listen to who I can. Um, a lot of people definitely helped me along the way. I don't feel like I can take full credit for anything because it was a lot of, people who kind of stuck their necks out for me and helped me, get some of the bookings that I got and, learn a lot of what I did. So I think as much as I want to take credit for like, oh, how hard I worked, like there was a lot of people who made that happen who kind of got me to that point.
Yeah, we'll talk about some of those figures and learning because I know you love absorbing new knowledge. You're still in these
Mhm.
development stages of your career. But in 2023, you also made your debut on the QWI 200. I know that was a big goal for you. So can you talk about your initial reaction to receiving this honor and what does it mean to have your work recognized in that capacity?
So I in 2022 I had gotten like an honorable mention in the QWI as like the future people to look out for, but I didn't actually get on the list. And I my whole goal for 2023 was like I want to make it on the list. That's honestly the only thing I wanted. And to see that I got on there, I barely got on there. I was 199 out of 200, so I barely got on there, but
You beat somebody that I mean,
I, I guess you got a point. I think they said it was like 500 people who were in
yeah.
contention for the list. And just being able to see that and get the recognition for some of the stuff that I did in 2023. Obviously, having the first ever match between two transgender women in the state of Tennessee, having the first match between two trans people in the state of Georgia. I wanted it to happen so much to make the list and to see it happen. It was a really cool moment. It really was.
And I feel like you can only go up from here. First, you were an honorable mention, then you were 199. So, like, top 100,
I
2024, I
look,
think you
I
could do it.
that's the goal. It really is. And I don't want to like say like I'm definitely going to get it, but like I'm going to push my hardest.
Yeah,
I,
and that's all you can do. We're still in the beginning. We're still in January, the beginning of the year, so we got a lot year left to play out. But I think that's incredible, especially for your first full year in wrestling to be
yeah.
recognized on a list like that. I think is really really awesome. And now I'm curious. You previously wrote in 2022. Again, you started training that year and then made your debut later that year
Mhm.
as well. You wrote on Instagram that 2022 was a year full of constant doubt and second guessing, and questioning all of this. But 2023 is now officially in the book. So as you look back on 2023, your first full year of wrestling, how would you summarize 2023 personally and professionally?
Um, honestly, 2022 was hard because I was just trying to get my feet in and fresh out of training at the Nightmare Factory. And I didn't know anything. Like obviously you jump in as a rookie, you don't know what you're doing, you don't know anyone. and I still don't know anything about what I'm doing.
You're still
Um,
learning, you know?
yeah,
It's you're not even 2 years in since your debut.
right.
You're still learning, so I totally get it.
Yeah, but I think 2023 I really started feeling a little bit more confident. I mean, like I still have a lot of that self-doubt. I'm still, my biggest enemy is myself, and I beat myself up over like every match that I have, every promo that I have, every time that I'm in front of a crowd. I'm like, did I do as good as I can? And like I still put myself down, but I look at 2023, especially in comparison to 2022, and I can see where my confidence, not just like in the ring, but outside the ring, has definitely grown. Um, and I don't feel as much like that scared kid when I go to shows, which has definitely been nice.
Of course, everybody has their own doubts, especially in starting out in something, like we said, it's been about 2 years since you started your journey with training. And as you're still growing, I want you to look back in a positive light for a second. You said your confidence has grown. Has there been a certain match or moment or performance so far in your career that you feel particularly proud of, and why?
Um, God, specific matches. 'Cause like I said, I am my own worst critic on matches. I watch back every match that I have if I can find footage of it and pick it apart and hate it so much. But if I had to pick just some matches that I had this year where I just kind of felt like maybe I did a good job there. I had a match, Zicky Dice Outlandish Paradise 3 at MomoCon against Kelsey Reagan.
Yeah.
And the footage of it hasn't aired anywhere, which I'm sad about. But I look back at that match, and it was one of those first sort of times where I went in there, I felt so confident, and I came backstage and I felt I actually did halfway good. So in regards to match, that's probably up there. And then just some God, I don't even know. Getting to work Effy's Big Gay Thanksgiving show, I think for me was a really big one because I felt like it was just this kind of like step up on like the level of show I had been working. And I'm like, yeah, it was just in a battle royal, but it felt so surreal being at a show of that level.
And especially, Effie, who has been a huge figure, especially in the LGBTQ community. And I love Effie's big gay brunches are something events I always look forward to. And at the time of recording this, Tampa week, I mean, he's having an event later this week, which is going to be super exciting. Mm,
I am a part of it. Um,
hmm
I don't know when this is coming out.
This is coming out tomorrow at the time of recording
Okay.
this, by the way.
So
So,
shortly before we recorded this, it was announced, which I've known about this for a while, but it was announced I am going to be part of Big Gay Brunch Tampa. I am in a I think it's the next up gay grapplers match, something like that. It's a six-way match between me, Caitlin Marie, who's one of the best female wrestlers in the Carolinas, Secret Daughter of Tyr, and Josh Locke, who are both great queer wrestlers out of TW in Tennessee. Ron Bass Jr. is going to be on there, and then Caden Pierre is also going to be on there. So that was announced shortly before we recorded this. So my Twitter's been blowing up. I'm really excited, and I got new ring gear specifically for the event, which I am so excited to debut. I'm nervous, but I'm ready.
let's talk about ring gear for a second because I know you've taken inspiration from Dragon Ball Z before in one of your ring
Mhm.
gears, actually maybe multiple of them. So, do you normally gravitate towards the anime realm, or what are your general sources of inspo when it comes to crafting and envisioning your ring gear designs?
Yeah, so the gear I'm debuting this weekend is technically my third like set of gear since I've started wrestling.
Okay.
My initial set I had reworked, so it's kind of like it's gear one, but it's also gear 2.5. So it's kind of
Yeah.
that weird sort of realm because I got it like modified and upgraded. But yeah, I love kind of, at least on color palette wise, like taking inspiration from things that I like my like I've been wearing for most of 2023 was inspired by Vegeta from Dragon Ball Z. And
Yeah.
then the gear that I'm going to be debuting this weekend is also color palette wise inspired by more Dragon Ball Z. So it's definitely, I find these like, characters or things that I love from, various sources of media. And that's just, I kind of like pick out the color palette of it. It's not so much like the design, but I'm like, I like that color combination. And
Mm.
I just kind of go with it from there. I don't know.
I'm so curious, what other when did you start watching Dragon Ball Z, first of all?
I don't even think I can give you a year. I
Okay.
remember like
Long time.
as a kid, like my like older cousins and brother would like have it
Mhm.
on TV and I'd like come in and like watch a little bit of it. And I'm like, yeah, this is so cool. And then like as I got older and I could actually like understand it and
Yeah.
whatnot and like watch it myself, I've like gone back and rewatched it. And it's just been like a really cool, like one of those things I'm just like, yes, I love this so much. I've watched every episode. Like it's amazing.
Yeah, and I'm curious, from childhood to now, what are some of your other maybe not guilty pleasure, but favorite shows from your childhood and then now that you could maybe continue to rewatch, like Dragon Ball Z?
So I was the hugest Pokemon kid.
Yes.
Still am. I have so much merchandise and games that it's not even funny. Love that. I am the hugest Avatar: The Last Airbender Legend of Korra fan. I got to meet Janet Varney, the voice of Korra from Legend of Korra, at MomoCon before the Ziki Dice Outlandish Paradise show.
That's
And I
awesome.
was in my ring gear when I met her, and she asked me about it. I was like, oh yeah, like because where they had the signings was right next to where the wrestling show
Mm.
was. And I told her, I was like, she like asked me about my ring gear, and I told her, I'm like, yeah, like I'm a pro wrestler. We're about to have a pro wrestling show. She's like, oh my God, maybe like me and some of the other cast could like come over and watch it, which like they had a panel right after the signing, so
Yeah.
they weren't able to, but it was still like cool that she found it so interesting that I was a wrestler and doing the wrestling thing. So that was really cool.
Yeah, and I'm so curious, talking about your childhood kind of. Some people know from a young age they want to become professional wrestlers, but if you think back to your childhood, what did your younger self envision your adult self doing when they got older?
I honestly never thought I would be a pro wrestler. Like I mean, I grew up like some of my earliest memories were watching wrestling. I was diehard wrestling fan, but I never thought that I was gonna wrestle. It was just something that I was like, yeah, I love doing it. I had all the action figures, the
Yes.
video games. I wrestled on the trampoline. I had this like body pillow I'd wrestle with and everything, but I never thought like, oh my God, one day I'm actually going to be a wrestler. It wasn't until the past couple years I sort of had this like resurgence in my fandom. Like
Kenny Omega.
yeah, it kind of it died down there for a little bit, and then I got into that like mid to late 2010s New
Yeah.
Japan, and then the start of AEW, and my fandom just exploded because I was seeing people doing the type of wrestling that I loved. And I was seeing like, the high action, the more sports sort of style that you see on like the indies and New Japan and whatnot. And I was just in awe of all of it. And one day I was just like, maybe I should wrestle. And then I just like happened to see that, Cody Rhodes had a wrestling school that
Yeah.
was only like an hour away from where I was living. So,
Kind of a full circle thing. I mean, you credited Kenny Omega of being one of the big people who kind of, and
mhm,
Okada too, who inspired and kind of reignited your love for wrestling. And obviously, Kenny and Cody were EVPs of AEW, so it's kind of
right.
a cool full circle dynamic right there. I
Oh,
have to imagine
100%.
that. I'm so curious for you. What about the Kenny Omega and Okada matches really specifically moved you?
It was just because, once you grow up watching, and I still love WWE, don't get me wrong.
Yes.
But once you grow up watching that sort of style where it's very, story driven,
Yeah.
and the matches are, 5 to 10 minutes, and then you watch something like, a Kenny Omega versus Okada or Omega versus Osprey, which at this point is probably my favorite match of all time. Um,
Which one?
that's the tough question. That's the $1 million
Yeah.
question. Probably the Tokyo Dome one. There was just
Okay.
something special about that one, it being the first one.
Yeah.
Um, but you go from watching these, 5 to 10 minute matches that are very, story and character driven to this 45 minute to 1 hour classic sort of match where they're just beating the heck out of each other. And I was just like, this is amazing. Like, not only just like are they really letting each other have it, but like the cardio that
The
takes.
stamina? Yeah.
Yeah. I get winded walking to the bathroom. Like it was something special. And especially, going from watching that style to of WWE style to some of my first experiences of non-WWE wrestling being, Omega versus Okada at the Tokyo Dome, or AJ Styles versus Shinsuke Nakamura at Wrestle Kingdom. It was a whole new world. It really was.
Now I'm curious, what has been the longest match that you've had so far in your career?
Um, are we counting like Royal Rumbles?
I guess it would count for the duration that you were in it.
I mean, I guess that's kind of cheating because Royal Rumble you can just kind of hide in the corner.
That's
Um,
that. No, that counts. No, you take it.
um, I mean, I've had a couple of Royal Rumble type matches where I've lasted 10 to 15 minutes.
Okay.
But probably I've had some like 10 or 11 minute matches. I don't know. I'm still working on my stamina, so at that point I'm kind of tuckered out.
In 5 years, you'll be a 60-minute wrestling machine.
I don't know about that. In 5 years, I'll be 32 years old and probably not want to get out of bed in the morning.
You know what? My back has to. I'm 26. I got back problems already. It's not fun, and
Yeah.
especially at the rate you're going though, actually being physical. So I can understand that a little bit.
Hey, I feel you. I'm 27, so I'm not too far ahead.
Now, I wanted to reel it back a little bit to the Nightmare Factory, obviously to your debut specifically. That it aired about a month after it happened. You faced
Hmm.
Angelica Risk. I have to imagine though that there's some pride and also some comfortability in going out there against another graduate of the Nightmare Factory. So,
Hmm.
what are some of your takeaways from your debut and now 16, 17 months later, seeing where you and Angelica are at right now?
That debut match, I watch it back every couple of months to kind of like just sort of see. I was so lost. I, I mean, we got through, but there were so many times that I was like, what am I doing? Like should I be hitting this move here? Like oh no, I tried to do something and I messed up. Like, um, it's insane to go back and watch and getting to work someone like Angelica, who I think is so underrated. I think so many more people should be booking her for shows because she was amazing, and really helping bring out the best in me. Um, to now, just I mean, even like offense wise, like I do moves now that I didn't think that I'd be doing back then. It's just crazy to me, and I think the thing that's the craziest about that match was after it was done, the very first person I saw when I went through the curtain was Cody Rhodes. He made sure because they were watching in a separate room all the matches, and he
Yeah.
made sure as because we were the only women's match on the show to come to behind the curtain and be the first person that we saw so he could like talk to me about it and like compliment me, which was really cool.
Yeah, especially being surrounded by so many other minds, but also your peers. You talked about that you've learned a lot from your experience so far through your
Mhm.
training and through working with other competitors. So I'm curious, has there been a specific advice or words of wisdom that have really stuck with you so far, and who did they come from?
I don't know if I can, off the top of my head, think of like a certain like term or anything because
Okay.
like there's been so many people who've like told me so many different things. But I mean, if I had to pick out, some people who I just feel like I've learned so much from, obviously, the people at the Nightmare Factory, who were great. Cody Rhodes, QT Marshall, Glacier, all amazing coaches. All know so much about this business, more than I'll ever know, probably. But even outside of that, there's a couple wrestlers that I interact with a lot in the Alabama scene. Donnie Primetime, who does a lot of New South and some GCW stuff. He has become such a good mentor to me through, riding together to shows, just, talking backstage. Carrie Awful and Nick Iggy of the Carnies, who have appeared on NWA and Ring of Honor. I've learned so much from them inside the ring and out and just about the business. It's like people like that who've kind of just given me advice, or even if it's just like small things like, hey, maybe don't do this in a match, or maybe like try and do this a little bit more. It's just words can't express like how thankful I am for that.
Yeah, and like we were saying earlier, you're one who loves to absorb knowledge and keep learning new things. And
Mhm.
I know you were slated to attend the seminar led by Emi Sakura at Beyond Wrestling. Did you end up attending it?
So I was at the show. I wrestled on the
Okay.
show. I faced wrestled by the name of Armani Chaos.
Yes.
Um, it was a lot of fun. Unfortunately, Amy Sakura's flight had gotten delayed,
Oh,
so
okay.
she wasn't able to make the show,
Damn.
and so some things had gotten moved around because I that wasn't the match I was originally slated for.
Yeah.
But because she wasn't able to make it, Bali Naki was not able to make it. Some things got moved around, which I was really sad about because I love Emi Sakura.
Yeah.
Her Some of her work in AEW is just amazing. Her match with Jamie Hayter is probably one of my favorite women's matches of
Yeah.
all time. So I really wish that I could have gotten that experience.
Like, they gotta get beyond. This is a campaign. You need to get Emi Sakura back and also get Saraya back as well. Thank you very
Yes,
much.
get me that knowledge.
Oh,
Get me
I
all that
love
knowledge.
I love Emi Sakura too. I feel like I mean, underrated gets thrown around, but I feel like especially in AEW, she's had a lot of matches and they're really good, but
Yeah,
like doesn't get the constant television time. And I mean, she has her own company as well. She's a veteran. I know that would be somebody who I would imagine would be amazing to learn from. She has the world traveled experience. So
100%.
Beyond, or maybe even Nightmare Factory, get Emi Sakura in there.
Anywhere. Yeah, no, I've really, especially over the past year or so, I've started watching so much more Joshi like
Yeah.
content, and I've loved every minute of it, everyone I've watched. I'm like, this is the type of wrestling I want to do. I want to learn from people like this.
Yeah, and especially part of this wrestling journey is also furthering your character. We were talking about ring gear earlier. Your identity and your presentation in the ring is so important. So, can you talk about the process of developing yourself and that aspect, and who maybe it's still a work in progress by the look on your face, which, fair, you're 2 years in, but can you kind of just talk about the process of developing that aspect and who Soraya is as a character right now?
Yeah, so my biggest thing is, and it honestly all circles back to the Dragon Ball Z
Yes.
statement, because like I've started using sort of the moniker the Super Saber, which is a play off of Super Saiyan from Dragon Ball Z, and it's just kind of those sort of like mentalities of like, I want to be this warrior who loves to fight, who wants to test myself against all the best, who is not satisfied with what level I'm at. I want to constantly keep pushing myself. And I've kind of gotten to this like point of the past couple of months where I've adopted this sort of like moniker. It's even further beyond, which in Dragon Ball Z, there's a scene, and it's the first time that Goku ever goes Super Saiyan 3. And he's like, and this is to go even further beyond. And I just, something about that saying just kind of clicked with me, where it's like, I want to go even further beyond. I want to take, where I am and go even further beyond. I want to take what LGBT wrestling is or what women's wrestling is and take it even further beyond. And that's just kind of been my sort of mindset going into this year.
Yeah, I know one of your goals, everybody has a lot of goals laid out. You want to work with more people, keep learning.
Mhm.
So, as you're looking ahead towards 2024, can you talk about some of your personal and professional goals that you're kind of eyeing to accomplish this year?
So The goal that I originally set for myself was I wanted to double the amount of states that I had worked from last year. So last year I hit 6 states. So this year I was like, I want to hit 12.
Yeah,
And I think after this weekend with Big Gay Brunch, I'll be at 3 so far. Um,
there
so
you go.
we're working there. But that's kind of like the widespread goal for this year was like I just wanted to hit like double the amount of places. And then just in regards to like some of the names, like I just wanted to wrestle so much like amazing talent. One of the names I had on my list actually already marked off was Noah Vale, who is an amazing queer wrestler out of Florida. This is the first match I had this year. Unfortunately, I had a stomach bug while the match was
Oh
happening, so
no.
it wasn't my best work. But getting to wrestle them in a one-on-one match, we had a little moment in our Effy Big Gay Thanksgiving Battle Royal, but getting to wrestle them in a one-on-one match was amazing. They are such a great talent. So they were on my list, and then I had a bunch of other people on the list, but some of them might be unrealistic. Like I wanted to wrestle, Dark Sheik, Edith Surreal, Sawyer Wreck, like all those like big name queer wrestlers.
I don't think it's not unobtainable, crazy, honestly, wrestling is, I feel like the industry based on never say never,
Right.
maybe not this year, but you've already had kind of a moment with Dark Sheik, Dark Sheik is one of your inspirations. You got to see Sheik
Yeah.
wrestle, and then I saw your pick at the merch table, which was adorable, by the way. So, I mean, can you talk about Dark Sheik's influence on you and some of the other people that you look up to? You just named a few of them.
That was such an awkward moment because like I had wanted to like meet them for a while, and
Yeah.
I just like walked up as this like shy fan after a GCW event here in Atlanta, and I was like trying to tell them like, hey, I'm like a new like trans wrestler. I'm a huge fan of yours, and can I like get a picture? I was so awkward. I had like no idea what to say. And then like we took the selfie, and I was like trying to like offer to pay for the selfie because I like didn't know. But I mean, if we're going to talk about inspirations, because I mean, obviously, we talked about, like the ring style inspirations, like the Kenny
Yeah.
Omega and whatnot. But I gotta mention all the trans inspirations, all the trans wrestlers who have kind of came before me and paved that road, whether it's a Dark Sheik, an Ida Surreal, Mariah Marino, who I've had a conversation or two with before. It was super nice. Kid Bandit, who's also from the Nightmare Factory. They actually sent me a message earlier when they saw the announcement for the Big Gay Brunch show. Um, Giselle Shaw, Nyla Rose, just any of those sort of trans wrestlers, Sunny Kiss, who have kind of pushed forward people like us in wrestling, especially in mainstream wrestling. It's mind blowing and inspirational.
It's been over 8 years since you came out as trans, and you have such an
Mhm.
inspirational story yourself. And now, you're kind of in a position where you can use that story to inspire others, through your work, through meet and greets, and through all these cool events. So, think about your own story and your own journey. Do you have any advice or message to those who are maybe on a similar path and are looking to come out themselves?
I mean, it's tough because I mean, yeah, I've been out for 8 years, but it's been a rough road. Like I've lost, I don't talk to my family anymore, and like I've lost a lot of friends through it. But it has been one of the best things I've ever done in my life. Just being able to be my authentic self, and for people to see me being my authentic self, it has just I wouldn't take anything back. I wouldn't change anything about it. It has truly been one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life is to live as myself authentically and openly. And just for anyone out there, it's just, don't be afraid to be yourself. I mean, obviously, do what's best for you and your own safety, but just the world is changing and evolving and becoming a better place. And I know that it's not all the way there yet, but don't be afraid to be yourself. There are people out there who, see you and support you. And even if you don't think that you have anyone, like, heck, I'll support you. I'll be there for you. I'll be your support system. It's such a fulfilling journey.
Saraya, before we let you go, can you please share where the listeners can find you online and support you?
Oh God. Okay. So I always forget because my social media handles are never like the same thing. So I think on Twitter/X, it's just at Saraya Saber.
Correct.
On Instagram, I think it's underscore Saber underscore time. And then I don't remember what I have a TikTok, but I don't remember what the username of it is. But
Hold on.
I'm sure if you just look up Saraya Saber, it'll pull up.
Let's look.
I haven't I haven't posted on there in like a month, but it is a thing. I do have it.
It's underscore Saraya underscore stay saber for TikTok.
Okay, there you go.
There you go. Follow Saraya, support Saraya. You're doing amazing things. Thank you so much for
Trying
chatting
to.
with me here today. It's been an
Thank
absolute
you.
pleasure.
Thank you so much.